G'day. In this lesson we're introducing a new unit plan, and hopefully you'll have the documentation in front of you, or if you're looking at this at home then you've downloaded it because all of the documentation and drawings are available electronically as well. The whole focus of this unit plan is critical thinking skills. So we're looking to help you learn, and then we'll be assessing your critical thinking skills. And you might wonder, how on earth are we going to do that, because I can't see what you're thinking. But what I can see is how you respond to what you think. So as we provide information and learning resources to you, what you do with that represents how you think about it. And that's what we'll be focusing on for the assessment. The learning and assessment context will be fabricating this toolbox and your reviewing of various resource materials. And you'll notice homework, plenty of homework. Stack of homework. Well, not really, but there's a good amount. But you'll be pleased to know that just about all of the homework is actually YouTube videos. You will need to make some notes about what you see in those, make some comments, because you'll then be coming back to school and in the next lesson recording your comments, your thoughts, your observations. Critical thinking. You watch a YouTube video, you don't just watch it and say, oh yeah, that was cute, but you think about it. What happened? What was the implications? Is there something that I need to change in the way I work in the workshop, etc.? And you're making those sort of comments. I used to be a driving instructor, and when I was a driving instructor I developed an expression: next time, how can you do it better? So always looking to improve. So a number of times teaching someone to drive, put you in a real dangerous situation, get through it. So next time, how can you do it better? Recognises that, gee, it really didn't go well, but yeah, okay, I'll think about that. Have you noticed when there's an accident on the side of the road, everyone slows down to have a peek? Well, most people never think about it, other than, oh, okay, well, that's interesting, I wonder if someone's hurt or whatever. Same scenario. If you thought about, well, next time, if that was me, next time, how could I have gotten out of it? So there's a lot of things that we do in life that we don't necessarily critically think about. A lot of people might say, well, critical thinking, I think. But the thing is, we don't necessarily critically think. And in order to learn to critically think, we need to start to review, compare, analyse. And you'll notice here that the critical thinking is demonstrated through reviewing, understanding, comparison, exploring variables, considering implications, adaptation, application, procedure, precision, and attention to detail. So they're the ways that critical thinking is demonstrated, and the context, as I said, will be in fabricating this toolbox and in reviewing those materials. For the moment, I just want to jump onto the drawings and go to the very last page. So on the last page, what I've done is I've prepared a anticipated delivery and assessment schedule and production sequence or procedure. So lesson by lesson, lesson 1, 2, 3, etc. gives you an idea of what we're going to be looking at, what the tasks will be for that day, homework and assessment items based on that lesson or the homework from the previous time, etc. If there's a bit of a gap here, then it's a continuation from the previous one where there's a particular task that may flow on for a little while. So this is the toolbox. Not a very pretty toolbox. In some of the projects that you've been making, the aesthetics, the finish, the use of various materials to finish it off will be part of the assessment. Because a jewellery box like this one has got to look really nice. It's an inside thing. But the purpose behind this toolbox is not to make it and put it on a shelf to look at. The purpose is to use it. Take it somewhere, do something. The idea is that we want to encourage you to go out to the garage or the tool shed and make something, or adapt something, or fix something. And that's why we've got a very functional toolbox. You can see my workbench. So I'm at home at the moment. My workbench is not a nice, pretty workbench. I know some people get to and stain and varnish and have beautifully elaborate workbenches, but you'd be so concerned about making a mess of it that you may not be willing to work. Whereas here, I don't really care too much about making a mess. I can come out here, it's a little bit grubby. If it gets a little bit grubbier, that's not an issue. The big thing is, it's a workbench. It's there to work. Different types of toolboxes. You'll probably be quite familiar with this style of toolbox called a tool tote. And you may have already even made a tool tote at school. They're quite useful. You can load them up with a bunch of gear, take it off to do a project, come back, put the gear away. Other types of toolboxes. You can get proprietary toolboxes for specific equipment, and then the standard metal toolboxes, etc. So let's have a little bit of a look at this toolbox. As you can see, briefcase style, door on the front, the latch you'll be making yourself, the handle you'll make yourself. But notice we've got a couple of rails across the top. The purpose for this is that, well, what do you do with the toolbox when you get home? That's what you do. You put it away. And because it's hanging, I can still have stuff underneath there if I want. Or maybe I'm going to be mounting it on hangers underneath the workbench. So part of this toolbox actually also includes these tracks. Now it's just a couple of extra pieces of plywood and some aluminium, but it all goes together as a sliding track. So that's going to be part of the toolbox as well. Now let's have a look inside. Inside the toolbox we've got 3 racks. And the racks have been designed to carry various tools. So this is rack C. And from an assessment perspective, with regards to the toolbox, the brackets on this one have been predefined. You'll be needing to accurately make all of the brackets based on the drawings from here. But the other 2 racks, you don't have to follow the drawings. In fact, the drawings don't have the details on those. There's just got indications. It's just got indications of what tools you might want to put on there. It could be that you'd prefer to have, say, a hammer on the rack. I don't have a hammer allocated in the drawings. So you can choose to some extent what you want on the other 2. The big criteria is the amount of space. So for instance here, there's only 57 millimeters of space. So it's got to be able to fit within there. And as you see, a nice place to put your sandpaper. Okay, well there's my toolbox and there's my racks. Now what do I do with them? While it was hanging up there, it was nice and neat, so I could hang that back up. But what about the racks? The other thing that you'll be making are some bench mounts. On the back of the rack are some cleats, some cleat inserts that you can mount on the side of the bench. And then you can put the toolbox away. And while you're working, you've got nice, easy access to those tools. They're tidy in their own right. Finish with them. Open it up, slide the rack away. So that's the nature of this toolbox. So let's go back to our unit plan. There are 3 tasks involved in this. The first task is to review, reflect, and consider. Critical thinking skills. Review, reflect, consider the variables required to make the toolbox. So for instance, I've got the toolbox fully designed and the first rack fully designed. But if you're working in a workshop and a new client comes in and they have a custom order, they want it made a little bit different, a different material, maybe a different thickness of material, etc. So there are some variables. For instance, maybe a client wants it portrait or landscape as opposed to portrait. So there are a number of variables involved in that. So you need to be able to consider those. If your school doesn't have 7mm ply, I've designed this out of 7mm ply, but if your school has 9 or 12mm ply, but not 7, how would that change the toolbox? So, task 1, review, reflect, and consider the variables in making the toolbox. Task 2, review and comment on specific learning materials. So that's those homework YouTube videos where you have to look at those videos and consider, reflect on it, make some comments. And also the very last assessment for this project is to review, comment and evaluate the entire project, including the documentation, the drawings, all of this. It could be that you look at it and say, just a minute, there's an easier way to do some of this. That could be part of your review and comment. You're looking at, just a minute, the way it's done is too difficult. There's an easier way. Or when you did it, it was too hard to do something. Maybe it needs to be thought about to find a better procedure. Or maybe it just worked really well and you're looking forward to using it at home. But that'll be your final assessment. So it's all critical thinking, review and comment. The third task is to use various workshop tools, machines and procedures to make the toolbox. And in making the toolbox, there's a few different focus areas. The first one is production sequence or procedures. And that's where this is going to be very beneficial because you can anticipate what's going to be done each day, each lesson. You can mentally prepare yourself. You can look at the homework, get the assessment answers ready to go so you're not wasting time in class, etc. Accuracy and attention to detail. As I said, I've designed this out of 7mm ply. Most of the time we wouldn't build something out of 7mm ply because it's really quite thin. It makes it harder to work with. But I've deliberately chosen 7mm ply partly because it is harder to work with. But if you follow a procedure, then it's not so hard at all. It's a case of, if you just go ahead and try and build it without thinking about it, then it will be hard. Whereas if you've got big chunks of timber like this, oh yeah, I'll just nail it or screw it or whatever. Don't have to be so careful with your thinking. But because this assessment is critical thinking skills, then you're going to have to think about how you do things, follow procedures, and pay attention to detail even more. Another aspect that we're focusing on is reinforced butt joints. So where it joins together, how to reinforce that, and distributing screw and nail pressure. When I screw into the side of that, it's only 7mm wide, the risk is that as the screw goes in, it's going to expand, and it'll want to expand, and it could break away the plywood on each side. So we need to be able to redistribute the pressure created by that so that that's not going to happen. So they're going to be some of the focus areas in the actual construction. Now, there's 4 project variables. The first one, so we're looking at the first page still, project variables. The first one is the toolbox orientation. Portrait or landscape. You get to choose. So that's your choice as to whether you want it this way or that way. And that'll reflect how you're going to use the toolbox when you get home. So you'll need to have a look at in the garage or workshop or under your bed or wherever you want to put this, and so where's the best place for this to fit? You might not have a workbench, so it might be a case of does it go in a cupboard shelf somewhere. But the idea is that you need to work out what's going to suit yourself, and you'll actually get to build it one way or the other. The second project variable is the tools that will go on it. As I said, the first rack is already defined for you, whereas the other 2 racks are open for a little bit of variation. The third variable is controlled by the school. What plywood do they have? What material? As I said, I've designed this on 7mm, but if your school has got a supply or large stock of 9mm ply, 12, 15, and they wanted to use that instead of 7mm, how will that change the project? And in doing that, you'll need to go through the drawings and change the dimensions to suit the new project. So it's like having a custom order where we're specifying or altering something to suit a particular client. Once again, that's critical thinking. You're learning to look at something, review it, adapt it. And the last project variable are the machines that you'll use to actually make it. It could be made on a CNC router, panel saw, table saw, a table router, circular saw, even a hand plunge router. Number of different machines, bandsaw, could be used to make this. Your teacher will decide which machines you use. It's not a specification that I have, it's one that the teacher will define. And there's 2 main reasons or 2 main aspects that the teacher will use in deciding. The first one is most likely going to be skill and knowledge. Your personal skill and knowledge with the machines that are already there. It could be that the that your teacher wants you to spend more time on this particular machine to build up your skill further, so as to get even greater skill on that machine. Or the teacher may say, okay, no, you've reached a good point in that machine. They want to introduce another machine. So they'll get you to work on that one to introduce new skills. So one might be to enhance existing skills. The other might be to introduce new skills. The other aspect that will influence the teacher is your behaviour, your attitude. If you walk into class and you're sloppy and you're casual and you're late and you're not paying attention and you're misbehaving, then you don't have a safe attitude. You don't have a workshop attitude. If you're not focused, you're not really caring about what you do, then you're not safe to put on various machines. So there might be some machines that you just don't get to touch because your attitude, which is an extension of your critical thinking. Your critical thinking in that case is pretty well low. So the teacher will say, no, keep you on these safe or safer machines. But if you walk into class and into the workshop and you're switched on and your attitude is there that you're in the workshop to work, to learn, to make, to be safe, to work as a team, then that's more of an attitude that can be trusted. And say, okay, well, let's introduce something different. Let's go to a more advanced machine. And ultimately, though, there is another factor, and that is in a large class and only a few machines, your teacher may want you to spread around and use different ones just to keep the work flowing. Otherwise, the work may come to a standstill. On page 2, and this is a page that a lot of students might normally try and skip over, project rationale. What are we thinking, or what am I thinking when I'm asking to develop critical thinking skills? Well, this gives you the answer. This explains why I'm thinking along those lines and what I'm looking for. And it'll be very beneficial to have a read of that because it'll help you understand critical thinking a little bit more, understand our teaching and assessment expectations, and it'll help you as you move through the project. We've also got assessment evidence collection. How do we collect evidence of what you're thinking? Well, as I said before, the way you think is defined and displayed in how you behave. So if you're thinking safety, if you're thinking productive workshop attitude, then you'll be safe and you'll be switched on in the workshop. So we can see it in how you behave. Special considerations. So for instance, there's a bit of reading to do in some of the assessments, a bit of writing to do. If you struggle with those, there are some special considerations that I've noted, as in text-to-speech software or speech-to-text the other way around, etc. Assessment criteria. You've got 3 tasks, remember? The first task, review, reflect, consider the variables. So a number of different variables. The second one, review and comment on specific learning things, as in the YouTube. And then the third task is actually making it. Now, when it comes to assessments, and I'll only quickly talk about the first one and one other, just to give you an idea as to where we're going in this unit plan. The first assessment is safety, and that's fairly reasonable in a workshop activity. There's a YouTube video that I want you to watch and comment on. It addresses safety on a table saw. So the first 5 or 6 of them are all to do with table saw safety, but it can be applied elsewhere. So once you watch this first video, which is assessment item 1A, you'll write some comments. What did you notice? What did it make you think about it? How might you change the way you might work with a table saw or the way you might work with some other machinery? Then assessment task 1B is to watch another 4 YouTube videos on the same topic and then comment on that as well. So first off, you'll have your comment on the first one, comment on the second one. The idea is that as you learn, as you get exposed to new material, you think about it and then you learn more. You get extra information, so you think about it more. And then you get extra information, so you think about it more. So we're progressively building on your critical thinking. So these YouTube videos I've selected specifically to encourage thinking in a particular area. Assessment task 1C is a little bit different. So although it's still the same safety issue from the first ones in table saws, but it's then looking at those sort of safety issues in a broader sense applied to other machines. There is another assessment a little bit later, another couple, where I give you some web links, some hyperlinks, and you click on those links and read through the web pages. So one of them deals with pocket holders. Yep. There is one more assessment, or another type of assessment, where I give you a number of hyperlinks or web links. And you click on the hyperlink and it'll take you to various web pages. So for instance, one of them deals with pocket hole joinery. And in one of the links, the person is saying, oh, pocket hole joinery, it's great, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's the best thing. In another link, they're saying, it's terrible, we should avoid it. And I can't remember what the third link is in that case. But the critical thinking there is for you to look at these opposing arguments and come to your own conclusion as to a pocket hole. Is pocket hole joinery good, bad, indifferent? Would you use it? Would you not use it? So that's another type of assessment that you'll have representing that critical thinking, and you'll then need to come back to school and in the next class write your comments as to what you view or what you've considered out of those links. So that's the unit plan. You've got the documentation, you've got the drawing, you've got the web links, they'll be included in the documentation, and you'll be making this toolbox. It will be fiddly in many areas, but have fun. Hopefully you should enjoy the task and think about it. Think about what you're doing, because that's what it's all about. If you get the toolbox 100%, but you don't think about anything else, you'll fail it. Because the toolbox is only roughly a third of the marks, and a third isn't a pass. So there is stuff that you've got to think about and respond to. But enjoy it. Should be a good project. Thanks.